A measure of wheat in Roman Egypt once cost about 17 small coins. Within roughly a century, the same wheat cost 8 million. Rome was not destroyed by barbarians first. It was destroyed by its own coins, and by the men who made them. This is the story of the denarius, a small silver coin that held the world's largest empire together for centuries. Soldiers were paid in denarii. Taxes were collected in denarii. Every road, aqueduct, and legion ran on that little coin. Its power came from one simple promise. The silver inside it was real, and everyone believed it always would be. In the year 64, Rome burned for 6 days, and Emperor Nero faced a rebuilding bill he could not pay. He could not raise taxes without riots. He could not borrow his way out. So he found a third option, inside the mint itself. Nero quietly cut the silver in each denarius to about 93%, keeping the leftover metal for his own treasury. The coins looked identical. They spent the same. Almost nobody noticed that the empire's money had just become a small lie. It seemed harmless, even clever. But Nero had handed every future emperor a weapon that would eventually destroy them all. Around 107, Emperor Trajan trimmed the denarius again down to roughly 80% silver to pay for his wars. Under Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, it slid to about 70%. Even the wisest rulers could not resist the trick. Each cut was small. Each emperor told himself it was temporary. And each cut made the next one easier to justify. By the reign of Septimius Severus and his son Caracalla, the denarius held barely 40 to 50% silver. Then, in 215, Caracalla went further than any emperor before him, with a scheme that was almost elegant. He minted a brand new coin, the Antoninianus, and declared it worth 2 denarii. The problem was what it actually contained. The new coin held far less silver than 2 denarii. Rome was now officially paying its debts with numbers instead of metal. Merchants and money changers slowly caught on, and across the empire, prices began to creep quietly upward. Rome's silver mines were also running dry by this time, so less new metal was flowing in to cover the difference. But shrinking mines do not explain the recklessness. The real reason emperors kept cutting war armor, and it decided who ruled. An emperor's throne rested entirely on the army. Soldiers expected their pay, and every new ruler owed them a bonus called a donative. Then paid for the raise the only way he could, with even thinner coins. Every emperor after him inherited the same trap: cut the army's pay and die. Pay them honestly and go bankrupt. Debasement was never an accident. It was deliberate policy, the fastest way to conjure money that did not really exist. Then, in 235, the system snapped. Rome entered 50 years that historians call the crisis. Emperors rose and fell in rapid succession, sometimes several in a single year, each one crowned by soldiers demanding immediate reward. Every new ruler needed cash on day one, and the mint answered by striking more coins with less silver in each. Plague swept the provinces. Persian armies pressed the east. Germanic tribes crossed the frontiers. Every new crisis demanded more money. In 260, Emperor Valerian was captured alive by the Persians, the deepest humiliation Rome had ever suffered. Under his son Gallienus, the silver coin finally hit bottom, and what happened next broke something no army could fix. By 260, the Antonianus contained around 5% silver. It had become a copper coin wearing a silver disguise. The thin silver wash rubbed away in circulation, exposing the copper underneath. The lie was now visible in every hand. And once people could see the lie, the spell that had held Roman money together for 3 centuries dissolved. Merchants raised prices to protect themselves. Soldiers demanded more coins. The state minted more. Prices rose again. A perfect spiral. In Egypt, wheat that had averaged about 17 drachmas, a measure in the 250s, began climbing toward numbers nobody had imagined. Confidence in money simply evaporated. Coins that had circulated across 3 continents were now barely trusted by the people holding them. The state faced an impossible task, running the largest empire on earth, with money its own soldiers hardly accepted. Nero's clever little trim, compounded quietly for almost 2 centuries, had detonated into the death of Roman money itself. Then, in 284, a soldier's son named Diocletian seized the throne and finally ended the 50-year crisis. He restored the borders and rebuilt the government, but against inflation he attempted something no ruler had ever tried at this scale. In 301, Diocletian issued the Edict on maximum prices, one law fixing prices across the entire Roman world. Grain, wine, olive oil, meat, clothing, transport, and even wages themselves. The penalty for charging more was death. Diocletian believed greed, not broken money, was what kept driving prices upward. Carved in stone across the provinces, it was the most ambitious economic intervention the ancient world had ever attempted. It failed almost immediately, and the way it failed is a lesson governments have kept relearning for 17 centuries since. No empire could police every market stall, and sellers facing a loss on every sale simply hid their goods away. A writer who lived through it, Lactantius, recorded that men feared to sell anything, and scarcity grew more grievous than ever. Goods vanished from legal markets and reappeared on black markets at prices far beyond anything the edict allowed. In Egypt, surviving records show wheat blowing straight through the legal cap of 100 denarii and never looking back. Law is Risonvitz. The law was quietly abandoned. Rome had learned that an emperor could command armies, but never the price of bread. The numbers from Egypt tell the ending. Wheat prices multiplied roughly 6,000-fold in less than 70 years. By the 370s, a single measure of wheat could cost over 8 million denarii. Nero's coin was dust. The silver denarius, once the heartbeat of the ancient economy, had effectively ceased to exist as honest money. The Western Empire survived another century and a half, but the money that had bound it together was gone. No barbarian army debased the denarius. Every single cut was ordered from the palace by men trying to buy one more year. Each emperor's trim looked rational on its own. Together, they destroyed the one thing that made the empire governable. The pattern is ancient and simple. When a state spends more than it has, the easiest victim is always its own currency. Inflation, Rome learned, is not a price problem, it is a trust problem, and trust does not obey imperial edict. The denarius took 2 centuries to die, one small and reasonable decision at a time. That is what makes this story frightening. If a slow lie could kill Rome's money, imagine 5 entire civilizations dying in 50 years. That story is next.